Hey everybody. All right, I'm just starting with Pandora because she saw me setting up the camera and she was already starting harassing me. So hello everybody from Pandora, sweet Pandora. All right, Pandora is now how to fill. All right. So, oh wait, hold on. Come here, bud. Your turn. And this is Mayhem. He's the newest addition of our gingers. He's weird about being handled. Give me a second. Oh. This one here is Neelix. This is my baby ginger. We got him as a kitten. He's the only cat I've ever had from a kitten. And he's my sweet baby boy. He is. I love him very, very much. He's my favorite. I try not to tell the other cats, but he's my favorite. I love you. You're a sweetie. You're my favorite sweetie. He's my favorite cat because I've had him since he was a kitten. Mayhem, I rescued off of a roof from across the street. We're still not sure how he got up there. I figured he chased something or he got chased up a tree and ended up on the roof stuck up there. So I had to rescue him from that. Neelix was a stray. He was rescued from crossing the street. He had a brother that didn't make it. Pandora was adopted, and my tuxedo, I don't know where Lan is. Now, this is a great intro because talking about all these animals, and we're talking about animals. Pink Floyd, that's right. Okay, here we go. Pink Floyd Animals. You'll see I have two copies in my hand. I have the original compact disc release, and I have the 2018 remixes. All right. So there was a point in the 2000s where the Pink Floyd started re-releasing everything. They start, I've already covered the Wish You Were Here immersion box set. I surprisingly have not covered a lot of Pink Floyd. I covered Metal, which was the remaster as well. This is different though. This is not a remaster. This is remixes, and you can hear the difference right away. Now, that being said, okay, so I've discussed this in the past, but if you're a new viewer, if you've never heard this before, when it comes to compact discs, there used to be a 3-letter grade. There was AAD, ADD, and DDD. AAD was analog recorded, analog mixed, digitally produced. ADD was analog recorded, digitally mixed, digitally produced. DDD was digital recorded, digitally mixed, digitally produced. Okay. This would have fallen under AAD. It was basically just a direct copy off of a master tape with no tweaking whatsoever. This, on the other hand, is definitely completely digitized. Obviously could not be digitally recorded, but you'd never know listening to it because they remastered it that well. But this isn't just a simple remastering. This isn't just bringing up the levels of this. They totally remixed this, so it sounds completely different from this. It's the same album, okay? Like, I went through and I did a comparison. I've done this in the past. I did this with Rush, the Vapor Trails album, when they did the special release of it, totally remixed and whatnot, with the levels in that fixed up. And I wanted to do something like that with this one, but I couldn't line it up properly because with the exception of the very first song, Pigs on the Wing, all the other tracks vary by a couple seconds. I think a lot of that couple seconds is just dead airspace, but it varies enough that I couldn't just simply drop the tracks side by side with each other and launch them and let them go to listen to how different it is. So instead, I tortured myself for 3 days while I was working on the computer. And I kept going back and forth between the two albums. Now, this copy here, this is actually borrowed from Drew. This is my copy. Drew didn't even realize that this copy existed. Because I asked him, I said, I was reviewing the 2018 remixes. Can I borrow his copy? And he looked at me really strange. I go, completely different album. And he goes, oh, that's right. Because he never bought it and he's got this. Drew, on the other hand, though, does have the immersion sets for, I think, both The Wall and Dark Side of the Moon. I'll have to double check on that because I would like to get around to doing reviews for those two. Okay. So, that being said, we got 5 songs on each album. Let's get into the basics here first. We got 5 songs on each album. We got Pigs on the Wing Part 2, or Part 1, I mean, sorry. Pigs on the Wing Part 1, Dogs, Pigs, 3 different ones, Sheep, and Pigs on the Wing Part 2. When it comes to this album, Sheep is the only one I really am not a fan of. I don't mind Sheep. I mean, it's not a bad song by any stretch of the imagination. But Pigs on the Wing Parts 1 and 2, they're nice and quick. They bookend the album beautifully. They set up everything. I really love the acoustic strumming and whatnot on it. And oh my God, is it so much better on here. The sound is so rich and okay. So this is where we're going to do the difference. Okay. This has a cleaner, brighter, but not brighter as in, sunshiny day. Brighter as in the tone is brighter. It's cleaner. The highs are crisper. It really sounds like the vocal, not only the vocals, but even the guitars were pushed up in the mix, not to make them louder, just pushed forward in the mix. Like on the original version here, okay, wish I had a mixer here in front of me. If I had a mixer in front of me, I could show you. So you picture mixer sitting all even at dead zero, okay? It's going to sound like the acoustics were boosted up from 0 to maybe 2 decibels more, maybe tops. 1 decibel more, 2 decibels more. But the highs were turned up slightly. The mids were turned up slightly. The low end, not so much. The low end, I think, was about the same. I think they doubled up a couple of lines. They expanded the stereo on it a little bit more so you can hear that kind of wobble going on. It's not really a wobble. It's kind of just an offset panning, really. It could be multi-track on the vocals, one done on each side. That's a possibility. I'm not sure how they did it. I haven't read the details on it. But like, that's the whole album in a nutshell on the big differences. Like, they really did a job expanding it and really working the stereo, which comes up during Dogs. During the solo on Dogs, like when you listen to the original versus the new one on Dogs, whoa, man, that is crazy. I mean, there's a bunch of solos in Dogs, but they really play with the stereo and whatnot, because you'll go from like this nice, thick, full stereo, and then all of a sudden it's right back in narrow again, and then it's back out into stereo again, and it's back in narrow again. Something that you cannot hear on the original compact disc at all. I don't know if it was something they intended to do and just didn't translate. Maybe it only translated for quadraphonic, but because quadraphonic was so complicated back in the days, I don't know. Either way, on the remix, and I got to point out, when I was doing this comparison, I was listening to the compact disc, and I was technically listening to MP3 versions, which are already choppy and shoddy as is. So I'm comparing the choppy, shoddy versions versus the compact disc version, and they're still by far the superior. The reason for the comparison is I actually had this album loaded in my computer, so I just happened to be listening to the computer, and it made it easier. It wasn't in my stereo at the time. If I put it through on the stereo, it's just absolutely fantastic. Just this big, full, lush room of sound. Pigs, 3 different ones. This is one of those songs where okay. Animals, I've always had kind of a weird love-hate relationship with. Musically, I've always kind of loved it. Lyrically, I've always kind of been about it. And a lot of it, I think, is honestly just because of the production on here. But realistically, when I go back and listen to this version, I can see why I was never a fan of it. The production on it is just so pulled back. Everything feels like it's pulled back. Nothing has a push to it. It's just way too mellow. It says that Pink Floyd produced this. It was engineered by Brian Humphries. And this would be one of those cases where I would argue where, you know, the band shouldn't have been allowed. I think what happened with the original is so no one particular person would get upset or feel ego smacked. I think they might have gone neutral the whole way across the board with the instrument lines, like just flattened everybody. Whereas this, they brought everything to life. Pigs, 3 different ones. I like more now than I did as a kid. Dogs is probably my favorite song on this album. But that's because I really enjoy the insanity of Dogs. Pigs, I love the problem with this album is how political it is. Because Pigs and Sheep, Pigs, 3 different ones, and Sheep are songs that are very applicable today, even really. Using that George Orwellian talking about animals to represent humans and their various things and whatnot. It works. It's just, man, to a degree, it kind of doesn't work for me. And for that reason, that's why Sheep, I love where they're going with Sheep, but I'm very anti-sheeple. And this song, Sheep, is not the type of song that's going to wake up the sheeple. And that's the problem. It's almost... I don't know. It's it's a song that doesn't work for me lyrically. And musically, because of the subject matter, Pink Floyd is really good usually with the music for making it match. And because of that, it works the least for me. And then you get to Pigs on the Wing Part 2, which is a great way, like I said already, to close this out. Come here, Growly. All right, here we go, everybody. Coming in at the end of the video for Animals is my little beastly monster, Lanny. My tuxedo, who's viciously trying to get away right now because she's fucking around with the other cats. All right, thanks, Lan. So that's all 4 cats in one video. I deserve a like for that one. All 4 cats, one video. Give me a like, folks. Give me a like. All right. Even if you don't like the content, I gave you 4 animals on top of Pink Floyd animals. I want a like and a share and a notification click and everything else. Okay. Would I recommend this album? Yes. I think everybody needs to have this album. I don't think this album is going to work for everybody. This would have been, This would have been between Dark Side of the Moon and Wish You Were Here, I believe. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yes, because, well, I know this was after Dark Side of the Moon. Because on Dark Side of the Moon, the immersion set, they've actually got the demos they were trying out live for dogs, and I think it was either pigs or sheep. I can't remember which. Dark Side and Wish You Were Here are my two favorite albums. Wish You Were Here is my favorite album. And Wish You Were Here is actually interesting because it's actually comparable to this one this way in the sense of how few songs there really are on the album. Because I think there's only 5 tracks on Wish You Were Here as well. Shine Crazy Diamond, Wish You Were Here, Have a Cigar, Welcome to the Machine, Shine Crazy. Yeah, so 5 tracks as well for Wish You Were Here. And when you look at 5 tracks versus 5 tracks, and the way that the song's time split up, blah, 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 I will definitely still take Wish You Were Here over this. But Animals, I will still throw on before I'll throw on and listen to The Wall in its entirety. I will throw on and listen to Animals before I will listen to any of the post-Waters Pink Floyd in its entirety. So, I know because there are only the 5 songs and one of them I'm kind of talking down, it makes it sound like, but no. This is still an amazing and fantastic album. You still need to have it. This album does bring up an interesting argument, though, and when I talk about with The Wall as well, with David Gilmour. I know people love David Gilmour. And if I could get away with it without you, I might do it for my Patreon as a Patreon exclusive. There's been some talk over the years over whether or not Dick Wagner is the one who actually recorded the guitar solo on Comfortably Numb. And I don't want to get in the full details of it, but when I listen to the guitar on the remixes for Animals, when I go back and I listen to the guitar on the remaster of Dark Side of the Moon, when I listen to the guitar on the immersion box set for Wish You Were Here, when I go back and I listen to all of Gilmour's guitar work and listen to his guitar sound and everything else like that. And then I go back and listen to Comfortably Numb. And then I go and listen to Dick Wagner's guitar work and his tone and his nuances and whatnot. I'm convinced. I am absolutely convinced it is actually Dick Wagner playing the guitar solo on Comfortably Numb. And there is one guitar solo that he actually recorded after Comfortably Numb that proves it, in my opinions. And I've talked about it before. But if you're interested in that, let me know down in the comments. But I'm going to be honest, because of how much music sampling I would have to use for it, it would fall under fair use. But because of how much music sampling I'd have to use for it, there's a good possibility I'll probably just put it up on Patreon because YouTube is insane. And I don't need that type of hit on YouTube. Okay, folks. Let me know what you think. Get this. You got to get this. If you have this on vinyl, stay with this. But you, on compact disc, need to have this. Without a doubt, this is a compact disc must. All right. I'm done. That's it. Comments, like button, subscribe button, bell for notifications. A couple links worth checking out. Please and thank you. Peace, love, take care.